All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon. Let's see, The Blackest Heart and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing Casino Royale by Ian Fleming, book #1 in the James Bond series by Ian Fleming. I am reading this upon recommendation of you, the viewers, because every time I do a top 10 thriller novels thing or a top 10 thriller writers video, people are always like, you need to start reading Ian Fleming. You need to read the Casino Royale. You know, before Casino Royale, the only other Ian Fleming book I'd ever read was called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and I read that when I was like about 7 years old. Yeah, Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. But anyway, this book came out in 1953, and we're going to get into a little bit about the time period this came out in as we do the review. It is book #1 in the 12-book or some odd 12-book series of James Bond novels. I've got this book with the cover that I really like. I love graphic design and cover illustration. This has a great cover by a artist named Richie Fahey, and I just love it. It's just elegant. It's cool. It's got a great old-timey 1950s looking illustration. It's just spectacular. I love everything about this cover. So, James Bond, one of the most iconic characters in world history. I mean, everybody knows who James Bond is, just like they know who Dracula is, or Frankenstein, or Jaws, or any of the, I mean, just everybody knows James Bond, 007. This is the first book. Yes, believe it or not, every single Bond movie was based off of a book. Every single one of them. So this book starts off in a casino. A French casino in a town called Royale, France. Casino Royale. That's what it's called. Based off of a town in France called Royale. And so I looked it up. It's in northern France, on the coast of northern France, and it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. It was a made-up town. And so, but that's all right. It's okay. Whenever I'm reading a thriller novel or a historical fiction and it mentions a town or a castle or a cathedral or any part of the world I'm not familiar with, I Google it just to see. I Googled this and I found out Casino Royale was named after a fictional town that Ian Fleming made up. But anyway, James Bond is there. But what is he there for? Why is he in the casino? We learn an awful lot about the game Baccarat. I don't even know what it's called. But I just did... so many details about how to play that game up front in this book. I was just like, okay. That's where it starts out. It's a gambling. The whole book is about gambling. At the roulette table, the glamour of the roulette table, just being in the casinos, the high rollers, the high stakes, all of that right up front. We get to learn about James Bond and his Bentley, the car that he drives, the drink that he orders, which is on the back here. This is how he orders it. It's right here on the back. I'll have a dry martini, Bond said, in a deep champagne goblet, 3 measures of Gordon's, 1 of vodka, half a measure of Quina Lillet. Shake it very well until it's ice cold, then add a thin slice of lemon peel. I don't know what this thin slice of lemon peel does, but anyway, that's the drink he orders. It's right there on the back. Who is James Bond? Well, right here on the back it also says, Bond is what every man would like to be and what every woman would like to have between her sheets. Yeah. So we get to learn the origins of Bond in this book. It's pretty fascinating, actually. The Spycraft was great. I was not expecting a lot of things that ended up showing up in this book because I'm so used to the movies that I didn't know what was in the books. But the Spycraft is pretty detailed in this. Um, the story is a lot more dark than you would imagine. I mean, the movies are just like kind of action-packed fun, light-hearted kind of explosions and near escapes and all this kind of stuff, and Bond being a ladies' man. But the book here was a lot darker. You get to see what James Bond is thinking a lot more, and there's a lot more weight and depth to his personality in the book. In the movies, he just seems to be this stoic ladies' man who's always, just perfect in every way, and we don't really get to see his inner thoughts, but in the book we do. Is a lot darker than I was expecting. But the Spycraft was the one thing that I really liked. I wanted to read this passage. In the hotel, he goes into the hotel room. He turned up the bed light and the mirror light and threw his gun on the settee beside the window. Then he bent down and inspected one of his own black hairs, which still lay undisturbed where he left it before dinner, wedged into the drawer of the writing desk. Next, he examined a faint trace of talcum powder on the inner rim of the porcelain handle of the clothes cupboard. It appeared immaculate, untouched. He went into the bathroom, lifted the cover of the lavatory cistern, and verified the level of the water against a small scratch on the copper ball. Doing all of this, inspecting these minute burglar alarms, did not make him feel foolish or self-conscious. He was a secret agent, and still alive thanks to his exact attention to the detail of his profession. In other words, every time he leaves his room, he sets up these little markers to see if anybody's been snooping around. And there's a lot of this kind of stuff in the book. It's cool. One of the things that's awesome is we get to meet all of the Bond characters like M and Q and Moneypenny. We get to see where their kind of origin story comes from. We get to see the origin of the 007. In fact, one of the things that I thought was cool about this book was on the page I just read to you, page 6 and 7. Look, it's not just page 6, it's page 006. It's not just page 7, it's page 007. See how clever that is? And it keeps going. It's all like that. Everything has got, like, we got 0044, 0045, all the pages. I thought that was a nice little, cool little thing that the publisher did. So we get to meet all those things. You get to see how he drives the Bentley. He orders his drinks. Q, M, Moneypenny. And then also one of the things that I loved about this book is it's set in 1953. So all of the characters, the World War II is still fresh in their mind. All of the characters were part of World War II. So the history of most of these characters is tied into that war. And everything that happens in this book is affected by that war. Like, it's still fresh in their mind, and so everything they all just sort of reference back to it, which I thought was cool. And again, another unexpected thing if you've just watched the movies, which is all I've done. And anyway, so what's the plot? The plot is Bond is on a mission in this casino to neutralize a lethal, high-rolling Russian operative called Le Chaffrey. And he's got to, through a series of games of Baccarat on the Baccarat table, he's got to force this Russian spy master to retire by just breaking the bank and taking all of his money. But who will hit the losing streak first, or who will hit the winning streak first? What's gonna happen? Will Bond or Le Sheriff win this battle of wills at the casino tables? And then there's also a female lead character, and this is another thing that's different from the movies, is the female lead character, which her name was, I can't remember the girl's name. Anyway, she was female and she was the lead character. But even her part was different than the typical Bond girl. I mean, this girl was also a spy with a dark past and a dark story behind what she's going through. And she was also a competent spy, just like James Bond. And they kind of butt heads a lot in that Bond doesn't think that, well, why would a woman be a spy? Clearly she would be incapable. And the woman is like, I am more capable than you, mother. So shut let's do this job. And it's pretty kind of cool. I actually was surprised by a lot of stuff in this. The thing that surprised me the most was it was only like 170 pages. I would have wished it was longer. But there's 11 more books in the series. So I'm going to give this a solid, I'm going to give this like a 9.4. Let's give it a 9.4 out of 10. It was a lot more than I was expecting, and a lot of things I was not expecting, if that makes sense. So that's Casino Royale, and we're going to probably get more of these books and review Ian Fleming.